On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, we talk about the Michael Fasusi situation, the search for a new OC. Of course, we preview OU Alabama. Charlie Potter joins us to tell us more about the Crimson Tide. We preview the best games of Week 13 of college football. And, of course, we give you our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast. Rate it 5 stars and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Fasusi will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's beautiful Wednesday, November 20th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted the OKC Metro's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful, award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of November, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, good times, great rewards. Big one. Big one?
Very
Big
big.
one. Big one.
Very big. Yes, big one. Big one. Yeah. Well, uh, we got to get to a bowl game, man. We got two opportunities to do it. And I know we look at the LSU game and say, well, that's the most likely chance to get there. And I think I agree with that. But I also don't think this is an unwinnable football game.
Two things OU fans want to know about right now. And I know that people want to hear us preview OU Bama. But I feel like number one on the list is what's the update with the offensive coordinator situation? Here's what I have been told that I can relay. No contracts have been offered yet. They have their candidates divided into tier 1 and tier 2 guys. The goal, with their still, football still to be played, and a lot of these guys finishing out their seasons with their team, the goal is to have someone hired by Monday, December 2nd, which also just happens to be the date that we're launching our website. Ted, how about that timing?
Beautiful. And let's hope that it's a tier one candidate, not a tier two candidate.
Yes. Hoping to get 1-1, but it's, you heard Venables talk about, hey, if he's going after the right guys, then you finish the thing out with your team and then you make the move. But that's the goal, is Monday, December 2nd, to have an offensive coordinator in place. We'll see what that looks like. I do think a lot of the candidates are a lot of the people that are talking about, a lot of the people that have been mentioned. So we'll see how it ends up shaking out, man. But yeah, that's basically the offensive coordinator update. I know everyone wants to happen for it to happen now. I get that. I want for it to happen now, but kind of have to let the process play out.
I it's whenever there's something like this that happens, um, in the absence of any like real information, the conspiracy theories sprout up. And about every 6 hours, I get a text message where someone is declaring who the offensive coordinator is and like what all is taking place to get them here and all of the moving parts that are going to happen. And the person changes every time. It's a new coordinator. There's new locked in details as to why and how they're coming. So uh, just sit back and I mean, I love that everyone's engaged in it. It's obviously huge and very important for the future of the program, but don't believe everything you hear.
I believe the other thing OU fans are concerned about right now is Michael Fasusi. Here is what I've been told. Michael Fasusi has not asked OU for more money. They haven't been told that Texas or Texas A&M offered him a certain number. They've not been told they need to match any type of number. He's got an agent. I've been told that agent has been really easy to deal with. The agreed upon number is a substantial number. Been told that there's been really good lines of communication between Fasusi and his agent and the collective. And there's been no mention of him taking visits to Texas or Texas A&M, and that Fasusi loves Bill Bedenbaugh. I want to make something clear. If he does take a visit, and I know BV, he said the policy is the policy, right? If you take a visit somewhere else, you're not committed. That doesn't mean if he does that it's a deal breaker. I don't. I mean, there will be. You have to have a conversation, but it's not some type of deal breaker. So that's really. I think that's really all there is to say about that situation. Clearly, you'll want to keep that kid in the boat. He's very, very talented, and he's your prized recruit of this recruiting cycle. Yeah, you want to keep that guy. So we'll see. Clearly, the next couple of weeks is very, very important.
So, and maybe I'm asking a question that you don't have the answer to, but so it is everything that's been like, is all the rumors and everything, is that, I mean, not fabrication, but I, I mean, it seems like a pretty, that he's taking, like everyone's saying that it's a known thing that he's taking visits to these places, right? I mean, isn't that been reported as fact?
As far that's how I understand it. But I'm
But
just telling you, Fasusi's camp has not informed OU's collective of anything. So it is what it is.
yeah,
And they still, on the OU side of things, they still feel really good about where they're at.
that's good.
Now, a week from now, could they feel less good? We'll see.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's just, that is what has been relayed to me. I will say this. If I was a high school kid, I'd kind of want to be in College Station next Saturday. I mean,
yeah,
let's be real. It's going to be the center of the college football world. That's going to be an incredible atmosphere. Yeah, maybe take a trip, see how it goes.
yeah. That's a good point. That's going to be wild. It's going to be a crazy game.
Ready
Well,
to talk about Bama?
yeah,
I just figured
sure.
we hit on those two things before we dive into the preview.
Yeah. Obviously, big. Those are. I mean, the Alabama game is obviously huge, but those are kind of the pressing issues out there for sure. So that's good stuff.
Before we get rolling, and we don't have time for me to cry a lot more on here, okay? I understand that. But I received a ton of just kind and heartfelt stuff from all kinds of people. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that sent that stuff. I tried to respond to as many as I could, Ted, but there were a lot. Have you ever just seen a guy just sitting there like scrolling through his phone, just crying? I have to imagine it was not my wife was just like, what are you doing? But I appreciate all you guys. So that meant a lot. Thank you very much. OU Bama. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball for the Sooners. Ted, what are you watching for from OU's defense against a potent Alabama offense?
Yeah, it is. And obviously led by their quarterback, Milroe, who's really come on strong. I I was curious as to how he was going to fit into DeBoer's system offensively, and not having an extensive knowledge of what DeBoer did previous. just know that Penix is a different player than Milroe is, and I think that they've done a good job with not forcing a quarterback like Milroe to have to you know fit into this offense. I think they've built the offense around him really well. It's not it's not just they're forcing him to do their system. They've built some stuff around him. At least that's how it appears to me. And he's done a good job, and he's playing some of his best football of the year right now. They've won 3 straight after that Tennessee loss, and what they've been doing on the ground, especially with him, has been a big factor in that. Was huge against LSU. Running back, you got Jam Miller's their leading rusher at running back, and you also have Haynes in there. I think they're both solid. I don't see anything really special at running back from them. Let me know if you disagree. I think they're good, solid backs, but I don't see anything from either one of those guys that makes me say that's the best guy that we've faced this year at running back. And we've seen some good ones. Rocket Sanders, Noel at Missouri. We faced some good
Dylan
backs.
Sampson.
Sampson from Tennessee.
Sampson's the best one we've played.
Yeah. So I think. Do you see it differently with them at running back?
No, and it's, I don't know if it's fair or not, but I view every guy on Alabama through the lens of, hey, is he a first or second round pick? I don't think either of those backs are that type of guy.
I agree.
You think about some of the guys that Bama's had, Heisman Trophy winning running backs, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Jam Miller, and Justice Haynes. While it's an incredible name combination, Jam and Justice, awesome. Couldn't be better, baby. But they're really, really good players. I mean, they're going to be NFL players, but they're not possible first round pick type of guys, at least not right now in my mind.
Right. Yeah. Wide receiver. Everyone knows about Ryan Williams. He's their leading receiver. He's got 40 receptions, 767 yards, 8 touchdowns. And Bernard is the second leading receiver, 35 receptions, 543 with just the 2 touchdowns. But, it's interesting. There's not a whole lot of production at wide receiver after those two. I mean, those are their main 2 guys. Prentice has 10 catches. Law has 10 catches. I mean, that's really it. So their offense is really Ryan Williams, Bernard, Jam Miller, and Justice Haynes at running back, and Milroe. Not a whole lot of guys. Now, they play 3 tight ends, and that's, as we get into some of their – well, I guess before that, personnel-wise, on the offensive line, their offensive line looks really solid to me. I think from just watching like some of their television games early on, felt like maybe the offensive line was struggling a little bit. Seems like they've hit their stride, and I wanted to get your opinion, but their center looks incredible to me. We haven't seen, or I haven't seen a center that moves like him this year at all. Just looks totally different on film than anyone else I've seen. And I haven't heard you talk about him, or have you watched him?
Parker Brailsford, of course I've watched him.
Yeah. Well, I knew you had.
He kind of hurts my brain because he looks unathletic because he's knock-kneed, but he's very athletic.
He looks like he's moving at a different speed than everyone else on the line.
He plays with an incredible sense of urgency and does a really nice job.
He's just like, he snaps to where he's going. You know what I'm saying? It looks really good.
He uses the fact that he gets to snap the ball to his advantage, especially when they're on the road. Like he's snapping that thing and he's already on the move as that thing's going through his legs. He's a really good player. I think the only thing that I've seen him struggle with is with like a super powerful, heavy defensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really have one of those types of guys.
Yeah.
And the thing about Bama's offensive line, it's going to, they're huge,
Yeah. They
huge.
get some, I mean,
Except for
again,
the center. Brailsford's not, he's not huge. The rest of them, though, this will be when you just see OU's defensive line standing next to these guys. I think this will be the biggest, like the starkest contrast all season long, where you go, those dudes from Bama those look like some big dudes because they are tall and they're all incredibly thick as well.
yeah. Yeah. And, in the LSU game, there's several times where LSU is in serious trouble defensively because some like guard tackle double teams are getting like 3-4 yards of movement, and it's just like blowing plays wide open and cutting backers off, and
So
it's
I know you're talking about that first Milroe touchdown run
yeah,
where the three technique gets moved like 4 yards into the backer's lap. And I
yeah.
keep telling myself, oh, it's just because it was raining. It's just because the field was wet. That's not going to happen to us.
I hope not. I hope not. But there's some really good stuff from them. Now, what you see from them concept wise, it's not a whole lot different from what we've seen. Um, Personnel wise, 12 personnel, 11 personnel, 13 personnel. They'll play three tight ends, which I haven't talked about them much. 81, 80, and 45. I consider 45 a fullback, partially because of his number, but every now and then he'll be hand down in line, true tight end, but it's as a blocker. But usually he's a move guy. He'll line up in like an offset I type of position, like literally in the backfield, but then he'll be a wing or a slot on the edge of the tackle or outside the tight end. And I think he's a really good blocker. 270 pounds, 6'4", 270 pounds. I think he moves really well. All three of their two tight ends and their fullback, I consider 13 personnel, but they're all big. I think they all block well, all, fairly athletic. They're not, I mean, they're what you would expect from a big tight end in the SEC. They're really good blockers. They can then get out in pass routes, but they're not what I would consider weapons for them in the passing game. They're second and third options typically for them, but they do have a lot of size there, and I think they're pretty solid blockers. You're going to get a lot of gap scheme stuff, counter, power. They'll do quarterback, counter, and power. They'll do it off like jet sweep action. And, we've seen some of those plays starting to happen. Oklahoma's even adopted some of this stuff. It's not uncommon. I think pretty much everyone in the conference is running some version of all of these plays.
Yeah, just that QB power read play where they're
Yep.
reading the in man. If he kind of flows with the outside action, then the quarterback keeps it and runs the quarterback power. It's the play that Jackson Arnold fumbled against
Yep.
Missouri on when he ran it.
Yep. They're doing that, and they're doing it, power, and they're also doing it, the jet sweep and then countering off of it too. So there's some good stuff there. Uh, with the running backs, same stuff, power counter, and then they'll do zone insert. They'll do inside zone, a little outside zone stuff. They'll do it out of pistol so they can build in some play action because they really like to attack. I would say their passing game, mainly it's a deep attack passing game, off of play action. It feels like that's ultimately what they want to be. But, like one of the other concepts you'll see in the running game, and I think it's because of how well their center moves, they'll run guard center pulling around on the front side of some of their outside zone stuff, and those guys move pretty well. Saw quite a bit of that against LSU, and that just could be something that they built in because of LSU. But um, the running backs will catch the ball out of the backfield, option routes, Texas routes. They'll run some screens, kind of traditional running back screen stuff, like little boot rollout stuff, and then throwback screen to the running back. I mean, there's not a whole lot of stuff that I think is different than what we've seen. There's some quarterback follow stuff that's interesting. Like just it's like inside zone, but he just it's like a half effort fake to the running back and he follows him right away.
You know what I think they're doing on that? Because they ran it a bunch against LSU.
Mm-hmm.
He scored on it at least twice. And it kind of feels like there's that because that tight end has the defensive end man to man.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost looks to me as if he's reading what happens with that tight ends block. And then the running back inserts wherever away from wherever the defensive end fits.
Mm-hmm.
It almost makes it seem like the DN can't be right in that situation. And then the back just goes and finds color.
Yeah,
That's how it looks to me.
that's what I was going to say. It reminds me of like two back outside zone, which I call search, where the fullback basically, you know, reads it as if he's the running back and he'll cut back or whatever where he feels like the hole's going to be and then block the first color. It kind of feels like that to some degree, but that's an interesting play that I don't think we've seen from anyone else. But really,
Well, at least it's not their best play.
yeah, yeah. I
It
really
is.
to me that's it. It's interesting. Like whenever you look at some of the breakdowns of their football games and how Milroe played, I it's no revelation that if you stop Milroe, you could beat Alabama. I mean, I think that's obvious. But what is interesting in there when you look at his numbers, he's thrown for 2,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, just the 6 interceptions, and he's added 17 rushing touchdowns. Um, but when you carve that out and say, well, what has he done against SEC teams? It doesn't look nearly as good. 5 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And he still has the 10 rushing touchdowns, but 4 of those, just came against LSU. So the passing game, not nearly as effective. And when you look at maybe some teams some comparable defenses, I think most people would probably say Tennessee's defense is better than Oklahoma's, and maybe that's true. But I would say that we're comparable. Yeah. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, had 14 carries for 11 yards. They were able to shut him down pretty good. South Carolina, now their defensive line is really, really good. We're not at that level, but 18 carries for 36 yards. They got to him a ton and really affected him in the backfield. Not a great day in the passing game. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. All right. Vanderbilt, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but they shut him down in the run game. 7 carries for 10 yards against Vanderbilt. So it's possible to affect Milroe and slow him down. And if you do that, you got a chance to win the football game defensively.
Anything else? I think that red zone defense is going to be massive in this football game. I think if you force, 3, 4 field goals, that'll give you a chance to make this thing interesting. But ultimately, do you win at the point of attack or do you not?
Yeah.
It is. Bama is not coming in here and trying to trick you. That's not what this is. It's, hey, we're going to line up, we're going to run the football, we're going to have our QB run game in place, we're going to throw perimeter screens. Can you get off blocks in all those situations and get guys on the ground? I mean, there's really not a ton of drop back passing game at all with what they do.
Nope. There's not a whole lot of pass concepts. It's mainly, they're going to do a lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage, and then they're going to take their shots downfield with Williams. And that's the one thing that you really worry about because, it's kind of been our Achilles heel. You go back to the Ole Miss game, the play to Luther Burden late against Missouri. The chunk plays in the passing game have been a problem for us. And it's not so much guys getting beat that's hurt us. It's, turning guys free. And, Williams is incredibly fast and has a really good knack for getting open on the deep stuff. So we're going to have to be really good there.
Got to be good against the jet sweep. They
Yeah.
love it.
Yep.
They're very, very talented. Make Milroe play quarterback.
Yep. I agree.
He's going to be the best athlete on the field, but you got to make him play quarterback from the pocket. It's not going to be easy, but it has to happen if you want to win this football game.
Yep.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right, let's talk about OU's offense against Alabama's defense. But first, hitting the highway, remember to stop at Love's Travel Stops. You can't miss the heart of the highway. And with the Love's app, you can also save big. How big? 10 or 15 cents big. Save 10 cents per gallon on gas and 15 cents per gallon on auto diesel. Save with the Love's app today and be welcomed by clean places and friendly faces. Certain conditions may apply. See loves.com for details.
Oh, you tailgaters, listen up. We're now officially in the premium conference of college football, and you expect a premium product on the field and on the grill. That's why you need Didier Ranch's steak burgers to take your tailgate to the next level. Proudly raised in Oklahoma for over 120 years, premium beef this good is hard to come by. Go to DidierRanch.com. That's DIDIER ranch.com. Use promo code Oklahoma15 for 15% off your order. Didier Ranch. Tradition plays better and tastes better.
And we are brought to you by Simple Modern, the official drinkware partner of the OU Sooners. Husbands, feeling a bit like the Grinch about holiday shopping? Let Simple Modern make your gift giving merry and bright. Surprise your wife with exclusive limited edition items from their holiday collection, or add a little sparkle with their new luxurious quilted Harper tote. Your kids will light up over their favorite licensed character gifts, and your office mates will love new tumblers and water bottles to kick off the new year in style. With Simple Modern, holiday shopping is done in just a few clicks. Plus, 10% of all profits go to charity. Many right here in Oklahoma, spreading cheer far beyond the holidays. Simple Modern, it's good everywhere. All right, looking at OU's defense. That's not right. OU's offense against Alabama's defense. When I look at, first of all, with the personnel, very talented. Size, length, athleticism. However, when I look at the defensive line, I don't see the typical no doubt first rounder for Alabama up front. I don't think they have that guy right now, or at least where they're at in their development. I don't think they have that guy right now on their defensive line. We're used to like a Will Anderson or a Quinnen Williams or a guy like that where it's like, hey, yeah, he's a top 5, top 10 pick at the very least. I don't think they have that guy on this defensive line. With that being said, they got all kinds of talent. They look great. It is what it is. But as far as having that true standout, I don't think I've seen that guy on tape for him. So getting into what they do, 4-2-5 structure, they will play an even 4-man front. They will also jump into 4-man odd. And then they do something that is very interesting that I showed you, and you and I'm not sure, can still figure it out. They will take one of their edge guys, number 4, number 34, and they will move them into the interior of the defense and play them an inside linebacker while still keeping their other two inside linebackers in place. He's kind of just floating in the middle of the defense in a 3-3 structure. They played it a ton against Tennessee, and it's just strange to look at. And it asks so much of those edge guys to be, hey, go from playing your edge responsibilities to going and playing in the middle of the defense and playing inside backer. It's kind of crazy to me, Ted, but they do it quite a bit, and I'm not sure they fit things particularly well in it, but it's unique for sure, man.
Yeah. It's interesting because I would say that most defenses right now run like there's teams that stay totally in the 3-3 stuff, and there's teams that stay totally in like the 4-2-5 stuff. But there are a lot of them, and I would say most have some version of both of those in. But like for Oklahoma, it's typically if we're doing the 3-3 structure, we're doing that heavy one week. If we're doing the 4-2-5 stuff, we're doing that heavy one week. They seem to like move between it a little more freely, and I don't know that it's necessarily a good thing for them, but they do go back and forth between the two pretty openly and use the same personnel to do so, which is interesting.
It means communication needs to be very good before the snap. What structure are they in? They'll also stem very late from the 4 down even structure to the 4 down odd structure. That changes everything, whether it's run or pass. You have to be able to communicate all of that, whether that's verbally or non-verbally, and adjust to it on the fly. So you have to know that some of that stemming is going to happen, and you have to be prepared for it. I would expect Joe John Finley to use a bunch of pre-snap motion in this game. When there are several snaps on tape, teams just motioning guys, and it seems like sometimes when that happens, this Bama defense just panics. It's strange to watch. There's all this talking going on. Backers are turning back to the secondary, saying things. The ball snapped, and some guys are just running free down the field. So I would expect the Sooners to use a lot of motion before the snap and try to see if Bama has all of that stuff worked out. We'll see. Getting to the run game, it's pretty clear to me that as a group, I think they're better at playing the counter stuff than they are at playing zone. I would expect zone insert and split zone to be a big part of what OU does in the run game. Now, and this may shock you, do you want to take a guess at what play has been most effective against Alabama's defense?
Outside zone?
Outside zone. Stretch in particular. Outside zone to the tight end. Getting these big guys moving laterally. No, I don't think they have played that play particularly well against teams that run it at a decently high level, if that makes sense. Mercer even had some success on stretch. Mercer runs stretch. We don't, but Mercer does. Looking at the inside backer room for them, I think, you've got Campbell, number 11, and Lawson, 0. Those guys are both very, very good players, but they rotate a third guy, number 15, Justin Jefferson. If you are double teaming to 15, you better be ready to come off because that guy is going to pull the trigger. He's coming. He sees run. He's coming. You have to be ready to get off on 15 on your combinations. I think when you look at what OU had success with against Ole Miss and against Missouri, would it shock me to see them have similar success against Alabama? No, that wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't, but I do think, very similar to those two games, I think spreading them out is the best strategy as opposed to getting in 12 personnel, bringing more bodies close to the line of scrimmage. I don't think that creates an advantage for you. I think spreading them out and naturally creating some more space is the best way to go. One very, very specific thing. When Bama gets into that 3-3 structure with the edge guy kind of floating in the middle of the defense, the way that they fit counter is, I don't know, it's just kind of disjointed to me. And one play that OU runs, I call it yo-yo counter, is where the tight end looks like he's going back across the formation and slams on the brakes and then becomes the second puller behind the opposite guard that's the first puller and becomes that insert second puller. I think that's a good play that could give them some trouble. So we'll see if OU gets to that yo-yo counter concept a couple times, especially when they're in that 3-3 structure. But yeah, it's not going to be easy to run the ball against this team. Big, physical. I know I said I don't think they have any like first or second round guys on the defensive line. They're still pretty damn good, Ted.
Yeah, they've got a lot of, good quality depth there. There's not a whole lot of fall off. I mean, you got really good players at all levels, and I it is nice that we've seen a little bit of improvement with the offensive line. Seems like more guys are stringing together. Better plays. We've had another bye week. I don't know how healthy we're going to be there. Do you have any idea if anything's changed on the offensive line?
I would think the only thing that you're hoping for is that Michael Tarquin can go. But we all saw the way that he looked in warmups against Missouri 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Did that look like a guy that was going to be ready to go and play Bama in 2 weeks? He would have had to make some serious progress. And I hope he did.
Yeah.
I really hope he did. But if it is Spencer Brown, then hey, buckle up, 58. Let's roll.
Yep.
And that's one thing. We can get to the pass pro stuff. We're going to find out where Logan Howland is at as a player in this game because they're going to put number 20, Jamarian Latham, and number 22, LT Overton. They are going to kick those guys out to defensive end. And those guys are thick and strong, and they're going to try to run through Howland's soul. And we'll see. Can he anchor or can he not? They're going to go speed to power. We'll see where he's at. Now, they've got Q Robinson, number 34. He's got a really nice long arm. But I think overall, this is going to be a very big test for Logan Howland and a nice measuring stick game. He played well against Missouri. I have to assume that made him a more confident guy. And now he's got to go and do it against all these creatures for Bama.
Yeah. Well, great opportunity. See how you match up. See how much improvement you've had. And, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if you played well.
I'm with you. My advice would be to stay out of second and third and long. They got some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Their third and long looks, they will show 6 up at the line of scrimmage and then have number 0, Deontay Lawson, standing a few yards off the ball behind the nose guard. So if you're in 6-man protection, right, you're 5 offensive linemen and a running back, you got to communicate who has who. If they bring 6, who has who? If they bring 5, who has who? If they only bring 4 and drop some guys out, who has who? And then there's also this. When they bring 7, who has who? And remember, if you only got 6 blockers and they're bringing 7, the 7th guy is on the quarterback. Jackson Arnold has to understand where he's protected and where he is not if they bring everyone. And you have to process all of that very quickly. And that goes back to what I said about communication. You cannot keep secrets out there if you're Oklahoma in third and long and second and long. It's not going to go well. You need to have a clear picture of where you are working. And you also have to have answers to cover 0 when they bring 7 guys or if you're in a five-man protection and they bring six. And in the offenses that I've been in, there's a lot of different cover zero answers, but some of the things that have worked against Bama this year in those situations, screens, whether that's running back screen or just throwing the quick screens out to wide receivers, speed option has been a really nice play traditionally against, some of these looks where you're just, hey, you're kind of sealing everything inside. You're pitching off the in man on the line of scrimmage. And then LSU first drive of the game. Bama gets in it. They run stretch for 45 yards.
You can cut one guy off, get him out of his gap. There's no one home on the second level.
Other third and long looks, they'll get in bear with Lawson over the center. You have to be ready for twists if that's the look that they're going to throw at you in second and long and third and long. Got to get off the ball a little bit and pass everything off with those twists. If it's quick game, you can probably just full slide it and try to make things a little easier, make the picture a little clearer for Jackson Arnold, but ball needs to come out. And maybe that's the theme of all of this in these situations. It's it's hard to imagine that this offensive line is going to hold up for 3, 4, 5 seconds. Like the ball, they need to play on time, and there needs to be a rhythm to the passing game. Once again, my official recommendation is stay out of second and long and third and long.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of problems come from being in third and long all day. And that's been an issue for our offense for big chunks of this season. Maybe the entire season is a lot of third and long. And yeah, if you want to give yourself a chance to where you can keep the defense on their heels a little bit, which is the best way to slow the rushers down and, keep them out of some of their more aggressive stuff. You got to be able to run the ball in early downs and stay on schedule. No penalties, no, 5-yarders, illegal formation, stuff like that. You've got to be really good logistically, to where you're not taking any procedural stuff.
Some pass game thoughts. We have not been a good running back screen team, but I do think this is a team you can screen. Is the screen guy Xavier Robinson? I don't know. Is Javonte Barnes, is that foot ready to roll? We'll see. But this is a team you can screen, and I would prefer to get that thought in their mind early. If Jackson Arnold can have time, there are throws to be made, especially when Bama is playing zone. I don't think they do a particularly good job of relating to wide receivers in zone, especially in the middle of the field. Ted, and that's something you've complained about with Oklahoma for a couple of years now. I think Alabama has the same problem. But you got to give Jackson Arnold time. And we'll see.
Yeah. Well, and to give him time, you're going to have to keep the defense off balance, and I know that they'll have a wide game plan, but in the rhythm that you talked about, we've heard Coach Venables mention that several times, trying to get in rhythm on offense. There's some concepts in the running game that you could throw at them, and then, I don't think it's that difficult. Some of the screen stuff just at the line of scrimmage, ball out of the quarterback's hand quickly, can keep them off balance to a certain degree, and then you can get into some good down and distances, 3rd and 4 or 5, manageable, and that's whenever you can start to attack some of the weaknesses in their zone coverage.
Get Jackson Arnold some layups early.
Yeah.
Need to build this guy's confidence early in the football game. It's like a basketball player seeing some shots go in. Just get him some completions early. Get some positivity going. Get him going in the running game a little bit. And hopefully let that confidence build. If it doesn't go well early, we've kind of seen how that typically affects him as a player. So get the guy some layups early. You got to take some shots down the field, though. There, especially when you know you've got man, when you're looking at the defense and all your indicators are, hey, they're playing man, you got to throw some down the field.
Yep.
Now, Bama's very talented at corner. I know that's shocking. But hey, get the ball, get that thing snap, take a couple step drop, maybe look off a safety while you're doing it, and then rip it down the field and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? That's kind of where I'm at with it. And the last thing I'll say, if OU does not control time of possession in this game, they will lose. If they do not control the time of possession in the game, they will lose. And I don't think it'll be particularly close. If the possessions are even, not good. This needs to be a OU has the ball for 35 minutes of the game type game. Vandy beat him because Vandy had the ball for 40 of the 60 minutes.
Yep.
That's what it has to look like. If OU cannot control time of possession in this game, I suppose Bama could turn it over like 4 or 5 times, something like that. That's always possible, but seems unlikely with how they're playing offensively. You have to control time of possession. You have to shorten the game. If you're going, if you get a shootout is not a good recipe.
No.
You have to control the football and control the clock and have a big, big advantage in time of possession. If you don't, I just don't see how OU beats Alabama.
Yeah. I agree. The other thing, and it's obvious, everyone knows this, but we cannot lose the turnover battle. Just can't. That's been our biggest problem in SEC play is the turnovers, and they've come in bunches. We'll be in football games, and then here come the turnovers, and we're not. And that's not something that's exclusive to Oklahoma. You go look at the turnover margin in the SEC, and you won't be shocked to find out that the teams that are at the top of the turnover margin are the teams that are leading the conference right now. And the teams that are at the bottom are the teams that are struggling. I mean, there's some other things involved there, but the most critical aspect of this game, if you want a chance to win it, you have to win the turnover margin. No way around that and still win the football game.
Completely agree. You got anything else?
I think that's it.
Let's get the caller shot. We asked you guys the number one thing you'll be watching for in OU Alabama. This first one comes from Jeremy LaForce. He says, how many fans will be in the stands after a 5-5 start? Am I crazy to think that this thing is going to be sold out, packed, and rocking?
No.
That's my expectation, brother.
I agree. I'm shocked at how much this question has come up. I mean, I understand people wondering how many people were going to go to the main game when you had weather looming and you had to move it up to an 11 a.m. kick 24 hours before the game started. There was legitimate reasons as to why that may not be a packed stadium and end up being a good crowd. I would be shocked and frankly disappointed if this isn't an absolute sellout, but in every seat.
I'm with you. I know things haven't gone particularly well this season. I get it, but it's Bama coming to Norman. What are we even talking about?
I know.
And it's a game that we desperately need. The fans can make a difference. The fans need to make a difference. Let me make it clear. Oklahoma's football team needs all the help they can get in this game. And if the fans can make it hard for Jalen Milroe and that offense to communicate, That's helpful. That's helping the cause. That's how an OU fan can affect the outcome of the football game. I think
Alabama.
it's absolutely insane that people are suggesting that a bunch of people aren't going to show up for this game. I I don't think people know what OU fans are. I think I'm with you. I expect 85,000. It's a night kick. There's no excuses, man. Be there and let's get rowdy. Let's have a good time. What are
Yeah,
we even talking about, Ted?
I don't know. Alabama has played 4 road games, and they've lost 2 of them. You know, I you Milroe is an incredibly dangerous player. There is no doubt about it. But I think he could be affected by crowd. I think our defense is good enough that we can really make life hard on him, especially if it's a loud environment. And I go back to that Tennessee game. Early in the first half of that game, when defense was getting stops, forcing turnovers, that place was definitely a factor early in how loud it was. An incredible environment. There's no reason it shouldn't be the same. I mean, I get it. A playoff spot is not on the line, but it is for Alabama. I mean, you don't think that it's a big deal if you win this football game, knock them out of a playoff, um, maybe spark something late with this team. I don't think it's an unwinnable game. And if you're able to pull it off, I think LSU is a winnable game. All of a sudden, you could put together a little streak at the end of the season and, carry some really good momentum into next season. Low percentage chance of pulling that off. I understand. I get that. But my goodness. And it's also senior day, and you're going to be able to see off some of these players that have stuck around and done a really good job here. So, yeah, I'd be disappointed if it's not a great atmosphere.
Not worried about it. I don't think you are either.
No.
I think the fans are going to show up in a big way. And let's not forget, the portal's about to open. If OU can beat Bama, which is a big if, let's be real. But you think that'll help if you end up in a portal battle with Bama? Because all these big time programs are going to be going after the same pool of guys.
Yeah.
Having a win over them would be awfully helpful to your cause. Yeah, it's mostly going to come down to NIL money. I understand that. But being able to say, hey, they came to our place, we beat them.
Yeah.
The fans, once again, the fans can impact the game by being there and being crazy. Get lubed up, people. Let's roll. Drink responsibly.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Let's learn a little more about Alabama from Charlie Potter. But first,
Schwab Meat is making Friendsgiving more fun with another NIL partnership for the holiday season, starring Billy Bowman, Jada Coleman, Kobe McKenzie, and Kinsey Hansen. Schwab Meat has been smoking the highest quality turkeys and hams for your special holiday meals since 1912. Every Schwab turkey is cooked and smoked over real hardwood hickory for 12 hours. Make your Thanksgiving meal easy this year by ordering your holiday turkeys and hams online at schwabmeat.com. Get free shipping on online orders over $75 with code OKBreakdown. Schwab Meat, the official champion of the holidays.
And 3 things matter in banking: service, service, and service. And First Fidelity Bank's commitment to exceptional service is more than a promise. It's their foundation. FFB has been by your side for over a century, and they are honored to be a part of your journey. Banking isn't about where you've been, it's about where you are headed. Open an account at an award-winning bank today at ffb.com. At First Fidelity Bank, we go where you go.
And head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and ice cold beer. It's the perfect spot to watch any big game. And with all the garage locations being open at 10 p.m. or later every night, it's the go-to late night spot. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order a line from the garage in your neighborhood.
It is our pleasure To be joined by the heart and soul over at BamaOnline.com. They do a tremendous job covering the Alabama Crimson Tide. Charlie Potter is in the house. How we doing, man? What's going on?
It's going good. Excited about this week. I've kind of said it a couple of times over the site. This is be my last the 16th, so the last SEC football stadium on my list. I'll be able to check them all off. So I'm looking forward to it. Never been to Oklahoma, so it's been a fun week.
Well, Alabama's starting to play their best football of the year. At least it feels like, maybe some bumps in the road early on. But how do you think the team in general has just taken to the transition from, Saban been there so long to Kalen DeBoer and his style?
I think transition's a good word because I think it's taken some time. I think you're right. They are playing their best here of late. They're starting to play complementary football, and that wasn't always the case earlier in the season. I think the defense since the Vanderbilt loss is really, they've been on just a steady trajectory upwards. And so I think offensively, the bye week came at a great time for Jalen Milroe. We all saw what he was able to do at LSU. I think the offensive line has gotten better. They couldn't really get worse from last year. They gave up 49 sacks, but they've been very much improved from a pass protection standpoint. And I think, again, that complementary football, they're turning people over. They're turning those turnovers into points. And so, but just from a Saban to DeBoer standpoint, I mean, it's been a smooth transition. I think for a lot of these guys that returning, it was probably a little jarring just going from the Saban mindset that they've been in for the past 17 seasons, and a lot of these guys for their entire careers to go into Coach DeBoer because it is a more laid back approach. But I think here of late, you've kind of seen what they probably see more behind the scenes is he's got some fire about him. He's that consistent guy. He's even killed. Hell, he's a nice guy, but he's a competitor too, and I think we've seen that come out here of late. And I think overall, it's been a smooth transition. I think a lot of people there was a lot of overreaction after the Georgia game because it's the highest of highs, it's the best win of the season of any team in college football, in my opinion. But then to go the lowest of lows and lose on the road at Vanderbilt, I think that kind of changed people's maybe expectations or outward outlook on this team. But I think to be sitting here going into these last two games against Oklahoma and Auburn with an 8-2 record, I think that's probably what people envisioned to begin with. They just didn't anticipate a loss to Vanderbilt on the schedule. And hell, Vanderbilt's been better than expected. So overall, I know that's a lot of words to say this. I think this transition's been really smooth, and I'm really interested to see what plays out because he's been really good in November. Kalen DeBoer has.
Are the fans still worried about what he wears on the sideline?
Um, I think now that it's getting colder, because it is like a hoodie, that maybe they're they're less inclined to pay attention to it. But yeah, that's a really dumb thing to be worried about. There's plenty of coaches that wear worse, and I mean the thing is, I mean Nick Saban just wore a coach's polo. He tucked it in. There wasn't really anything special about it. I think it was just something to complain about. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about, that transition. It took a while for fans to get used to it. They've been so used to one thing, and really just it's something you could set your watch to the last 17 seasons. And it's drastically different with Kalen DeBoer. He's wearing like a black dry fit hoodie. Sometimes he's just wearing a dry fit t-shirt. And I think they were fine with it, or I mean, some people are going to complain about anything. They were fine with it early, but then you lose on the road at Vanderbilt, and then it becomes louder. Thankfully, I haven't seen anybody say much about it here of late, but again, they've been playing their best football, so you don't really expect that.
What's been the difference for Milroe here down the stretch? Always had the great game against LSU on the ground. Is it just time in this system and settling in? Or is it the guys around him playing better? What's kind of been the catalyst there?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't play well in the Tennessee game, and it kind of trickled into the next couple weeks. And a lot of people wondered if he was banged up, and they haven't said he was. I don't know, if there's any substance to that, but he really benefited from the bye week, and they really leaned into what he does well against LSU. And I know he's a guy that, look, he wants to play at the next level, and I think he wants to prove that he is a pocket passer. He can do all the things that you want from a quarterback, but one of his strengths is his legs, and they were able to utilize that against LSU. Heck, I think he rushed for 185 yards against the Tigers, 4 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to do that every game. I don't think people should expect that from Jalen every game. But whenever you're able to mix that in, I think it's certainly beneficial. Another strength of his is the deep ball, and that really hasn't been there in recent weeks. And so I think just it is a comfortability within the system. I think that it again, it takes time. I mean, this is his. I've lost count of how many offensive coordinators he's had. I think it's his third, and he's only in his second year as a starter. And so he's a guy that he worked his tail off this offseason and had a little bump in the road in the middle of the season because he had a great start. His month of October is one that he doesn't really probably want to remember as much, but he's been good so far here of late. And I think if he continues again on this path that he's on, this trajectory he's on, it's going to be a good close to the season.
This is something we were talking about earlier, Charlie. Like how do you feel about Bama's running backs right now? Clearly, when you talk about the running game, Milroe's a huge factor with just how incredible of an athlete he is. But what do you think about Jam Miller and Justice Haynes? Like, are those guys elite? Are they really good? Like, how do you view that running back room for the Crimson Tide?
I think that a lot of people looked at that room as a strength going into the season just because the depth's there. A lot of people really high on Richard Young, who's their number three back, who we really haven't seen much of in terms of meaningful snaps. But I think they've been good. I don't know that they're the elite Alabama running backs that we've seen here of late. But again, you mentioned Jalen. They don't get as many opportunities as maybe some of those other guys. You look at the guys that Alabama was playing with the young Jalen Hurts. They got some opportunities taken away from them as well. I think next year, should Milroe turn pro, you'll learn a little bit more about these running backs. But so far, I think they've been pretty good. I think Jam Miller has been the most consistent. I think both of them have done some nice things as receivers, which probably doesn't get talked about enough as kind of a check down option for Jalen. But I think that combined, if you look at it as the quarterback's going to get half, maybe a little less than half of the carries. If you look at them combined, I think they've been really good. They just don't get a lot of opportunities. I don't know if they've had more than 20 carries in an SEC game this season. That's both of them combined. So just not a lot of volume there. I think there's still more to be desired. I think they have a lot of talent. Justice Haynes is I think a five-star coming out of high school, but just the opportunities haven't been there as much. I think for me, the jury's still out. I think they have all the talent in the world. I think the coaching staff is easily the best backs they've worked with in their careers. But with the offense with a mobile quarterback, you don't get to see them quite as much. And heck, I mean, you look at it for them at the next level, they're saving some tread on those tires. They could be primed for bigger roles next year. Again, if they're looking to replace Jalen behind center, but with a mobile quarterback, they just don't get as many chances as probably they would like.
The passing game, how would you kind of classify it or rate it, I guess is maybe a better way of looking at it. I mean, obviously big play potential is really the strength of the passing game. And you mentioned that Milroe wants to show that he can play quarterback from the pocket. How would you rate that so far this year? Is he proving that? And do you think the passing game is well rounded?
I think he's gotten better. I think he's gotten better at some of those intermediate throws. Well-rounded, probably. I think the deep shots are there. Again, those over the middle throws have been more prevalent. I think they've gotten the tight ends more involved in this offense, which is something. If you're on a message board, Alabama fans are always clamoring for. Not necessarily at the Georgia level, but they always want to see those tight ends involved. But you look at what they have from a weapon standpoint. It's really just been Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard. Those guys play a line share of the carries. They get Kendrick Law involved here and there, but it's mainly those two. And I think the passing games, it's been pretty good. I think they're like sixth in the SEC in yards per game, but I think they're second in yards per attempt. So that big playability is kind of what they've hung their hat on. But yeah, I think I'd probably give it B minus. I think there's still kind of with the running backs still some to be desired. I think we haven't seen just a complete game offensively. They've played well. They've done some things really well here of late. I think they've rushed for as a team, almost 800 yards in the last 3 games. They've been able to move the football, which is, I think been beneficial for them. But if they can connect on some of those deeper throws, then I think this offense really starts to open up. And they were hitting on them earlier. Again, the month of September, it looked like this offense was damn near unstoppable. If they can get that rolling again, then I think it'll be really important for this key stretch down this last run of the season.
Looking at the defense for the Crimson Tide, what up to this point in the season, Charlie, what would you say is the biggest strength of this defense?
It's honestly kind of tough because I think they do a lot of things well. I think really here of late, the inside linebacker play has just been off the charts. Jahad Campbell looks like the best player on the field on either side sometimes. He's just been playing kind of with his hair on fire. He's been all over the field making plays because they've had injuries and kind of attrition at their wolf linebacker position, which is their kind of outside backer, edge rusher type. He's moved down there some and really showed the versatility in his game. So right now, I mean, it's hard not to just say Jahad Campbell is the strength of this defense. But I think the back end has improved. I don't know if I would call it a strength, but they have a lot of young and new guys in that secondary. And we saw kind of in October, even in September a little bit, there were a lot of receivers getting open downfield. And if they had played some better quarterbacks, Alabama would have been in trouble. Luckily, that happened against South Florida and even against Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee. He just wasn't hitting some of those guys. And maybe it was the DBs disrupting the route or whatever it was. But they've gotten better. And I think really the key strength of this defense is his ability to turn teams over. They have 24 turnovers on the season. I think they have 16 in their last 5 games. They've just been very opportunistic. And then this past week, they were able to get one in the end zone. I think they were kind of chomping at the bit for that one. So, for me, turnovers probably edges out Jahad Campbell right now, but it's tough because Campbell's been playing really well. It's just everyone on that defense is able to force turnovers. That's really what Kane Womack preaches, the new defensive coordinator, of that swarm defense mentality. Takeaways is a primary objective for this team. And right now, they've been succeeding in getting the ball off of people, and now they're turning it into points.
What would you say is maybe the Achilles heel or the weakness, if there is one? Maybe they're really well rounded, but is there anything that they've struggled with? Maybe it's giving up the explosive play in the passing game, or haven't been able to get to the quarterback with frequency. Is there anything that they've really struggled with?
Struggle is tough because they've been playing really well of late. Against since the Vanderbilt game, they've been playing lights out. They even played pretty well against Tennessee. They got stops when they needed to. It was the offense that really sputtered in Knoxville. But they haven't really been able to get after the quarterback as much as I think fans would like to see. I think they have 21 sacks. That might be even too much. They just don't have a ton. It's a team that they're not going to blitz or send a bunch of guys at the quarterback. I think Kane Womack does some exotic things with his blitz packages or just pass rush packages. And again, they've been kind of depleted by injury. Q Robinson was probably their best pass rusher, a fifth-year senior, and he's out for the season. He got hurt in the LSU game. They have another guy that was kind of the depth guy at the Wolf linebacker position who's now entering the transfer portal in Keanu Coote. So they're going to rely on some young guys there. I think from an interior standpoint, the defensive line's been pretty good. We haven't really seen much from LT Overton, the Texas A&M transfer of late. He's been on the field, but he had a really strong start to the season, so much so that he looked like a one and done type of guy. But he hasn't really done much in terms of getting after the quarterback here of late. And I think that's something they would like. And not to kind of rain on the parade here, but Oklahoma's not been great in terms of pass protection. I think they've given up 41 sacks. So that's kind of a thing Alabama would love to see, trend up this week. And against that offensive line, maybe it is. I don't know. But that's probably an area when you ask Kane Womack, just getting pressure on the quarterback that they'd like to do a better job of.
All right, man. How do you see this one going? What do you think is going to happen on Saturday? I know you're excited to be in Norman. We're excited to have you. But how do you see this thing unfolding?
I think Alabama wins. I don't know if it's necessarily as convincing as some. I think that they could a 10-point win. I think you leave very happy with that. And that's probably where I would lean. just because, again, Alabama's starting to roll a little bit. It's crazy what a difference a month makes because we're sitting there in Knoxville, 2 losses, and hell, I'm already planning the Christmas party for the weekend of the SEC championship game. Now I'm having to change some plans because of how things have worked out in the SEC. But it's a situation where, again, we've talked about it a bunch. They're playing their best football right now. They're starting to play complementary football. They're opportunistic on defense. Jalen Milroe is playing with a ton of confidence and explosiveness, and I think the offensive line is playing better and better. That's a recipe for success, especially when you're going on the road. And so I think it'll be tough. I don't think this is a matchup where people expected Oklahoma, battling for just a bowl eligibility in this matchup, but I think people are still excited about it. And I think it'll be a test. I think they can do things well against Alabama, but again, just the way they've played of late, I give Alabama probably about a 10-point edge.
Charlie, we appreciate it, man, and we'll see you Saturday.
Looking forward to it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Insurica's launched a new digital agency introducing Insurica Direct. Whether you're in Oklahoma or anywhere across the U.S., they've got you covered. From small business insurance and health insurance for your employees to insurance for individuals like home, auto, and even Medicare supplements. Insurica Direct's got it all. Start your journey today at insuricadirect.com. Remember, at Insurica, we specialize in you.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED for 10% off. That's opolisclothing.com. Promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off. Hard to believe it's already week 13 in college football, but here we are, Ted. And let's start with a game that I'm not sure I could be more excited about. Indiana. The mighty Indiana Hoosiers travel to Columbus to take on Ohio State. This is 11 a.m. on Fox. Ohio State is currently a 13.5-point favorite. That's right. Number 2, Ohio State is a 13.5-point favorite over number 5, Indiana. Am I crazy to think that all of the pressure in this football game is on Ohio State?
No, of course that's how it is. Absolutely. Pressure's on Ohio State. Indiana's undefeated. Ohio State, is pretty much a shoe-in by most people's take on the playoff, but they're not going to make it in if they lose to Indiana. And I mean, I guess they still could, but I think that Indiana has been mowing through people. They haven't played the toughest of schedules. I understand that, but they've played who they've played, and they've done what they're supposed to do to everyone. And they've got an incredible amount of confidence. I think they feed off their head coach, who has an incredible amount of confidence. And yeah, they're going on the road, and 100% Ohio State. And they've had a bye week. They're going to have some stuff cooked up for this game, man. And this is, I guess I don't know the history of Indiana football very well, but it's hard pressed to think that they've ever had a bigger game in the history of their football program than this one right here.
I think that's fair to say. And I know nothing about the history of Indiana football.
Right.
But there's a reason we know none of the history of Indiana football. It's because there's not much history. And Kurt Cignetti seems like the type of guy that is going to have those players from Indiana walking into that stadium believing they are going to win the game.
Yep.
And there's no denying that Ohio State is more talented on both sides of the ball. But the most talented team doesn't always win. I cannot wait to watch this football game. And with OU having the night kick, we're going to get to watch every snap of this thing. And I really think that it comes down to what happens at the line of scrimmage. Indiana's O-line has been really good, coached by Bob Bostad. Coached me in Tennessee. Fun fact.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I would say Bob is more suited for the college game. It does not surprise me that those guys are playing hard and blocking the hell out of people. They've been really good, but Curtis Rourke's going to have to be amazing in this game. Will they be able to get the run game really going against that Ohio State defense? We'll see. But I know Rourke is going to have to outplay Will Howard. And I don't think it's that crazy to think that he can and will.
I'm totally with you. I mean, I I'd almost be shocked if he doesn't to some degree. Now that doesn't mean that Indiana is guaranteed to win the game. There's some other factors here, but I've liked what I see from him a ton. And Will Howard, obviously a good player. He's done some good stuff. He's going to be surrounded by a lot more talent, but I like their offense. I like their system coming off a bye week. They're going to have some things cooked up for them. As long as they play Rourke, I think that he's got a good chance to outplay Will Howard.
I think OU fans will have a close eye on how the Indiana offense looks in this one.
Yeah, for sure.
I This is massive for Ryan Day. Losing to Michigan in the last couple years, okay. Losing to Oregon on the road this season, okay. But Ohio State fans will not tolerate losing to Indiana. They will not tolerate that. And everyone is talking about how big of this game is for Indiana and for Ohio State and what it means for the college football playoff picture. And I'm over here going, this game is more important for Ryan Day than anything else. It is a massive, massive game for Ryan Day and the way that he's viewed in college football. There's a lot of pressure on Ryan Day to win this football game.
Yeah, and zero pressure on the other sideline with Cignetti.
Locked in, baby. $8 million a year. Sitting back, ripping cigs.
$8 million a year, and he's going to walk out there for the pregame chat and handshake, and you're not going to be able to tell who's the coach of Ohio State. And you know what I'm saying? Like, the body language from one guy is going to be like that. He must be the coach of Ohio State. Look how calm and confident he is.
Who's that guy?
Yep.
No, you're right. But who do you like?
Indiana. I've been saying it for weeks now that I think Indiana goes in and beats Ohio State. I can't point to one thing and say this is the reason, but I could say it's that type of year and the belief that team has in what they're doing, the confidence they have in what they're doing. You can't quantify that. And on the flip side with Ohio State, I mean, I think that they're a good team. I think they've got a ton of great talent, but for whatever reason this year, it doesn't feel like it's ever got to the point where you say, that's what I really expected from them. They're playing, they're getting everything out of all of these players, out of their offense and defense, what we expect. I feel like they've still underperformed to a degree. And with that comes pressure and uncertainty. And that's not what you want in a big game like this. Now, they are at home. And I think that's an edge in their favor until it's not. Until it becomes nervous in the second half and Indiana makes a play or two, maybe they have the lead and you can feel the nervousness from your own crowd. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. Give me Ohio State at home, more weapons offensively. I think it's just a tough ask for Indiana, but there's no way I would lay 13.5 against that Indiana team. No way. No, thank you. Stay away, sit back and enjoy this one, people. I cannot wait Which SEC game intrigues you more? Texas A&M at Auburn or Ole Miss at Florida?
The A&M Auburn game is really interesting. Um, the line, as tight as it is, I don't know.
Texas A&M, a 2.5 point favorite currently.
It does. I really like Elko, and I feel like they've. It feels like the program has kind of turned a corner, but this is one of those games previously where you look in this like this is a game that A&M goes and loses. You got the big Texas game right around the corner, like this huge buildup that's been years in the making, and here it is, the first time they've played in over a decade. Both going to be like top 10 playoff on the line, and A&M loses the week before to Auburn. I mean, doesn't it kind of feel like that spot? But we'll see if Elko's turned the corner.
The Aggies would not be the first to have their dreams die at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
It's true.
But I do think Texas A&M is a better football team. Now, would it surprise me if this is a close, uncomfortable game in the fourth quarter? No, not at all. If Auburn can get the running game going with Jarquez Hunter, I assume that Cam Coleman and Keandre Lambert-Smith are going to make a couple plays where you go, oh my gosh, these guys.
Yep.
And that's kind of just what they do. But Marcel Reed is a young quarterback going and starting on the road. How will he handle that? I'm not entirely sure how wild of an environment it's going to be. I like to think that Auburn fans are petty and they want to ruin A&M's season, and they'll show up in a big way and be ready to roll for this one. I don't know that for a fact, but it's just kind of my assumption. They're a 4-6 football team, but that's asking a lot of a young quarterback. And Auburn is not. It's not like they're not a talented football team, man. They got some players. So I think this one's going to be close, and it's going to come down to the back half of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And, we'll see. I think that what A&M can do on the line of scrimmage defensively is going to be a big factor. Turnovers have been the Achilles heel for Auburn. We know what that feels like. And, if you can get their quarterback under pressure, that's typically where those are going to come from. So I'll take A&M, but it's one of those where won't be shocking at all if they're fighting for their life late and Auburn has a chance to do something crazy. I mean,
Mike Elko
play really good late whenever they don't have a good football team.
Mike Elko has to win this game. When you slip up in the press conference the way that he did, when you say, "Hey, we're completely focused on Texas," oh no, I mean Auburn. When that clip exists, you simply cannot lose this football game.
No.
Even though he quickly corrected the mistake. And it was funny as hell. But now that lives in the world, you cannot lose this football game. You have to win by any means necessary.
Hey, unfortunately, we know how this works. I know he quickly corrected himself, but the clip where it cuts off and he didn't correct himself is the one that will live on forever if they lose, right?
Yes. Yes. Have to win the game.
Have to.
If you win the game, that clip disappears forever. Maybe your hardcore fans laugh about it every once in a while. If you lose the game, it never goes away.
Never.
Ever. So, got to win the game, Mike Elko. Just, you have no choice. One last game. Army Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium. 6 p.m. on NBC. Notre Dame's currently a 14.5-point favorite. Ted, I love my country. I love the troops. But I don't think this is going well for Army.
Yeah, it's. I mean, they're legit good. They got a good defense. Um, their offense, we all know what it is, and how dangerous it can be, and what happens if they find a little flaw and you have trouble stopping something that they can just exploit it for an entire day. Um, but the thing about Army is they get to sneak up on a lot of people. You know, they don't get to sneak up on Notre Dame though. As a non-conference opponent, Notre Dame is used to defending this type of team and this type of offense, maybe more so than anyone in Power Five football. So, if they can force a couple of turnovers and force the game to be played to their liking in their style, they'll have a chance. But it's hard to think that they're going to be able to score with Notre Dame.
Riley Leonard's playing the best ball of his career right now.
Mm-hmm.
Running game for the Irish looks good. I just don't think Bryson Daly and that Army offense, I don't think they're going to be able to consistently move the football against the defense, like you mentioned, that is comfortable playing against a triple option team. I don't know how the Yankee Stadium thing factors in. I don't know who that favors. I would assume Notre Dame. I don't know. It
Army.
just
Bad surface always favors an option team.
it's a good point. It's a baseball field, people.
Yep.
So
I gotta imagine it's probably not gonna. I don't know what the weather looks like, but my guess is it's not gonna be a great, like the best surface they've played on.
this may not be the best analysis, but it's also just hard to imagine that Notre Dame's going to lose to Northern Illinois and Army. Like those will be their losses. You know what I'm saying?
I do like that this is like a 1950 throwback that you've got, two highly ranked a Notre Dame and Army team with a possible playoff or championship on the line. Uh, it's crazy. I will say this. I mean, you can beat Army start to finish and not win the game by more than 14 and a half points. All right, you could totally dominate them and win 14-10 or something. You know what I'm saying? So that's a pretty big line against, because Notre Dame, I go back, obviously Notre Dame is better than North Texas, but North Texas played them a while back and had 6 possessions. And I haven't looked at all their games to see what all they've done, but remember we had one of the best offenses in Oklahoma history when Kyler Murray was at the helm, and I think we scored on every single possession and barely avoided going to overtime. So, that seems like a large line to me.
It feels significant, disrespectful to the troops.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for that game, though.
I am too.
It's going to be an awesome setting at Yankee Stadium. That's going to be. I typically am not a fan of big football games being played anywhere other than like college football stadiums or the occasional, iconic venue for a neutral site. For some reason, yeah, Yankee Stadium is doing it for me for this one. I don't know why.
Did you see the Army uniforms?
Oh my gosh.
That's this game, right? That they're
No, the uniform reveal is for Army Navy.
Okay.
They always those reveals that they both do for that game are so sick.
It's so cool that they have the ability to base their uniforms off of a historical event is so cool.
Yeah. It's Army and Navy, man.
Really cool.
Bucket list. I'm getting to check off Death Valley at night next week,
Yeah.
even though it may not be the full experience, let's say, but Army Navy on the bucket list as well. The college football bucket list.
Yeah.
Got to get there at some point.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
I'm going with Oregon. Again, they're at the top of the list. The college football playoff rankings came out last night, 11-0, and all of the top mathematicians in the world have gathered together, and they're finally ready to announce that after calculating through all of the possible scenarios that yes, Oregon is in fact a lock for the Big Ten championship game.
I chuckled when they came out with that release because everyone was talking about it after they beat Wisconsin. It was like Oregon's in, but there was no official word from the Big Ten. And I think it says a lot about your tiebreaker rules and where we're at with these super conferences that it took till Tuesday for the conference to say, yeah, they are in. We've crunched the numbers. We've put it through our algorithm. They're in. You guys are right. Congratulations to the Ducks.
Yeah, it took 72 hours for the quantum computer to work through all the possible calculations, and after melting the machine, they're ready to say, yeah, they're in.
Did you see the Dan Lanning jump around thing?
I did. That was pretty cool.
Damn you, Dan Lanning. I've said it before this season. He is slowly but surely becoming the face of college football.
Yeah. Now, I will say something that was interesting about it. Because it's a really cool video. And they did this. What was it last year when they played Colorado? Right? They put together
they do it pretty much. They do like these mini movies for pretty much every game. It seems like their content team is doing a real solid job. It being the content people for the undefeated team. That's an easier gig though. Yeah, that's real fun.
It was funny though that I watched it and I was like, man, that's really cool, really well done. And I scanned the comments section and there was someone from Wisconsin that said, I hate to break it to you guys, but every single team that we play joins in the jump around. It's not just Oregon. So I thought that was interesting, but they don't market it the way Oregon does. That's the more important factor.
Marketing people, those Nike marketing people apparently know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
But yeah, number one in the country, undefeated. Dylan Gabriel probably going to be a Heisman finalist. Don't think he's going to win. Think Dan Lanning's got a very good chance of winning Coach of the Year, depending on what happens with Indiana this weekend. The Ducks are flying high.
Well, we'll see. They've put together quite the season.
Who do you have as your loser of the week?
I had to go BYU. We knew they'd take a drop, but they dropped 8 spots all the way back to number 14, and now are kind of in a much different situation. And oh yeah, by the way, playing Arizona State, who still has a chance to have a bye in the first round of the playoff. How about that? And it's not that unreasonable to think that they could pull that off. That it's kind of wild and maybe a flaw in the system, but BYU back to 14. They're 9-1, and you look at all of a sudden at Boise State is a chance to be that higher ranked team.
It clearly the key for Boise State is to continue to win games, but if BYU goes and beats Arizona State, I think it's fair to say that BYU has a good chance to jump back in front of Boise. But I think the thing that would help Boise the most from a perception standpoint is clearly you got to win your games. But Genty just needs to have a couple of massive ones where everyone's talking about him. I think that would go a long way to keep them in front of whatever Big 12 team ends up being in that conversation.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I would say probably the only way that Boise would end up being in that spot would it has to be Arizona State winning the Big 12, right?
If Arizona State finishes as an 11-2 Big 12 champion,
I guess they would have beat number 14 BYU and then whatever Colorado would be ranked. I mean, they've got Arizona left after this week too. So maybe not. I mean, maybe that just plays itself out no matter what the result is.
we'll see. I do think the ACC is in a better spot than the Big 12 because what you've got, SMU at least is ranked ahead of BYU right now.
Yeah.
But and remember they still have they've got a matchup with Miami. So it does feel like the way that things can unfold in the ACC, like they're going to get a bye. They're not going to be the conference that doesn't get a bye if Boise gets one. That's going to be the Big 12.
Can you imagine Indiana, SMU, and BYU or Arizona State with your if it played out to where they won, have buys in the first round of the first 12 team playoff?
You know what has to be a little frustrating for Brett Yormark in the Big 12? SMU's ranked ahead of BYU. Those two teams played this season. BYU won that game.
Yeah.
But what have you done for me lately, says the committee.
That's right. That's right.
You got anything else? Anything else that stood out to you about the playoff rankings? Georgia seems like they're in a really good spot, back in the picture at 11.
I mean, the Lane Kiffin comment, and it's something that, you know, whenever we've talked about this whole playoff situation, and now the new mark for teams is going to be, did you make the playoff or not? Not so much conference championship games, but really that's it.
Right now, you look at it, Alabama at Notre Dame. Oh, my goodness. Georgia at Penn State. This is it. It's not a perfect system, man, but this is going to be awesome.
There's going to be teams that are pissed off that they either didn't make it or that they don't have a bye and they're on the road in the first round. Like, there's going to be teams that are pissed off, and I really, frankly, don't care. They can be mad all they want. It's going to be awesome to me. As a fan whose team is not going to be in it, sign me up for all the best matchups.
I'm with you. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
we're brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code OKBreakdown to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds. Turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. This week, I'm looking at the football board.
I got some for you, Ted.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Let's go Baker Mayfield. More than 243 pass yards against the Giants.
Okay, I like that.
And then the Aaron Rodgers situation is that's an interesting one, but let's go. I feel like Drake May's doing some things. Let's go more than 215 and a half pass yards for Drake May against the Dolphins.
There you go. I like it. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, and they will, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code OKBreakdown to get $50 instantly and after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
And we are brought to you by Mando. Mando is American made and is our new go-to for hygiene products. I'm all about efficiency and traveling light, which is why Mando's 4-in-1 acidified cleansing bar is awesome. It's a 5-ounce bar that does the work of shampoo, face wash, body wash, and deodorant. Use code OKBreakdown at shopmando.com. Let's be real, people. It's been a stressful season. And when you're stressed, you sweat, which is why you need Mando's whole body deodorant. It's safe to use anywhere on your body and is aluminum free and dye free. I've been using the Mount Fuji scent. Big fan. Smell good. And just a reminder, first time I wore it, my wife did tell me I smelled manly. Still makes me giggle. Luckily, I have a discount code to help you get hooked on the best smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off the starter pack with our exclusive code OKBreakdown at shopmando.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. That's shopmando.com, shopmando.com, and use code OKBreakdown. My winner of the week, I feel like you. I'm going with the same one over and over and over again. Give me Colorado.
Yeah.
Up to number 16 in the latest college football playoff rankings. 8-2 football team in a good position to play for a Big 12 championship. Travis Hunter is the front runner to win the Heisman Trophy. Shedeur Sanders may go number 1 overall in the NFL draft. But most importantly, Deion Sanders continues to say some things that makes it seem like he's going to stick around. Ted, what does it mean to you this week when Deion said he's got a kickstand down?
I guess that means he's claiming that he's found his spot. He's staying in Colorado.
He said exactly what it means to him. He said, quote, I got a kickstand down. That means I'm resting. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm excited. I'm enthusiastic about where I am. I love it here. Truly do. Listen, things could change very quickly if Jerry Jones calls. I get that.
Right.
But Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, continues to say things that have to be extremely encouraging to Colorado fans. I mean, him saying that type of stuff is way better than him not saying it.
Well, he's built up enough behind him. They've won enough football games right now. Like there was a time where I felt like it was teetering, and I have said in the past that when Shadeur's gone, Deion's out of there. He's not going to hang around at Colorado. But like they're in a position now where he may continue to get top recruits in there, top quarterbacks, and he may stick around. But I think you're right. If like the situation with Jerry Jones occurred, I mean, come on.
What are we even talking about at that point? Yeah, you take the Dallas Cowboys job, but they got a big one against Kansas at Arrowhead this weekend. It's interesting.
Dangerous. Kansas is getting it together.
Colorado only a 2.5-point favorite in that game. I think you and I both think Lance Leipold's a hell of a football coach. And like you mentioned, Kansas starting to play some better ball, but think Colorado has the best player. Think Colorado has the better quarterback. And this may shock you. I guess it shouldn't shock you because they're playing Kansas, but Colorado's got the better defense.
Yeah.
So that usually all adds up to winning the game, but we'll see. I don't know how the Arrowhead environment affects things, but we'll see. But I think that team's got a ton of confidence. I think they're going to go win that game, and I fully expect them to be playing in a Big 12 championship game here in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Jalen Daniels, he's gonna put a lot into this one, into this matchup with Shedeur Sanders, and playing a little bit better now. But he's dangerous. They still have good skill position guys at Kansas that can affect you at any time. But yeah, you still have to favor Colorado in this one, but it's a nervous one for sure.
My loser of the week and it saddens me. The Oklahoma City Thunder, the super ultra small ball Oklahoma City Thunder, have lost 2 in a row.
Hmm.
And they don't feel great because you lose to the Mavericks without Luka Doncic on Sunday night. And then Tuesday night, you lose to San Antonio without Wembanyama in a prestigious Emirates NBA Cup game. Which, by the way, that gray court for San Antonio, I like that one. That one was cool. But the squad doesn't have a center. It's hard to win games when you're playing against teams with giant humans. They're trying their best, Ted, but it doesn't feel great. Like, it's kind of a buzzkill when one of the best teams in the NBA is losing to opponents without their star players.
Well, so what's going on? What's the issue?
Let's start with the Mavs game.
Okay.
I hate PJ Washington. That's the issue. He's a different human being against the Thunder than he is against everyone else. 27-17 against the Thunder. Mavs also, I thought that they did a nice job. They just hammered them on the boards. But I think it was like 53-29. But still, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander misses the second free throw on purpose. And if Lou Dort was able to maybe get a better handle of it, and he hits that shot, they win the game. But Dallas shot the three, from a percentage standpoint, shot the three decently in that game. The Spurs, you can't be losing West Group B games in the Emirates NBA Cup. What's going on? No, it was, hey, the Spurs were great from three. Thunder didn't shoot it particularly well. I think the Spurs shot 41%. Thunder shot 30%. And they made another great run in the fourth quarter, but just couldn't quite complete the comeback. And I would say the number one most concerning thing about the Oklahoma City Thunder right now is their inability to get to the free throw line. They shot 25 against the Mavs, but the Mavs shot 36. And then it's hard to believe, but I'm telling you, this is true, Ted. The Thunder went to the free throw line 7 times against the Spurs.
Wow.
Spurs shot 19, Thunder shot 7. And it's crazy because the Thunder lead the league in taking the ball to the rim. So something's not adding up there. They're not getting calls. They're not being physical enough when they arrive to the rim. Like, it's got to be a combination of all these things, but it's really strange that they're not getting to the line at all.
Yeah, 7 free throw attempts in an NBA game has to be, it's probably not a record, but that's crazy in this day and age in the NBA. Wow.
Shai was 5 of 8 from 3 against the Spurs, and his shot looks so much better than it has the last couple of years. So I'm choosing to take that as a positive sign from the loss. But yeah, dude, lose 2 in a row to 2 teams without their star players. And I know they don't have a center. And Hartenstein, hurry, man. We need you. Hurry back. Hurry.
What's the time frame on him? It's got to be right around
should
the corner,
be soon.
Right?
Yeah, should be soon. But Thunder are still 11-4.
It'll be okay.
They're tied, I believe, with Golden State on a winning percentage standpoint for the number 1 seed in the West, but need to get some of the large humans back. We know that Chet's going to be a while. Jalen Williams and Hartenstein, got to get him back, because my biggest fear is that J-Dub gets worn out having to play this small ball 5 role where they're just stressing him in so many different ways on both ends of the floor. Gotta get some big humans back immediately.
Yep.
I don't like when they lose. I care too much.
It's early. They're going to be just fine.
You're right. Birthday shout-outs. Happy 11th birthday to Will Stone.
Happy 12th birthday to Maddox Grimes.
Happy 19th birthday to Devin Boomer Coulter.
Happy 28th birthday to Brandon Mudd.
And happy 39th birthday to Courtney Taylor. On that note, episode 476 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Sunday. Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Got to get us to 25,000 people. Come on, we need your help. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the games this weekend. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.